To change the oil on a BMW R1200RS, you need 4 quarts of oil, and they've got to be the right specification. Basically, SAE 5W40 4T, and they've got to be JASOME 2 API-SL. So I'm not putting Advantech in this engine this time because I got this oil for much cheaper, so I'm going to use the Castrol. You've got to get the right filter. In this case, I'm using the BMW filter, and you can see the oil drain plug gasket, and there's the filter number. The wrench that I'll be using is this wrench here, which I got from an auto parts store. It's expandable, and you can use a ratchet and an extension piece. And that's necessarily because of the access problem, which I'll show you in a minute. The oil filler plug uses a hex key. So that's an HW10 hex key that I got as part of a set. And also this here, this is some tin foil. You're going to put that tin foil over the exhaust pipe to facilitate cleanup, or to make sure that no oil drips down onto your exhaust pipe from your oil filter when you take it off. There's been a lot of debate on the forums as to what type of oil filter wrench to use. These are the different oil filter wrenches that I've got over the years, and right away I can say that the most effective one is this one here, because it uses a band. It's a band type wrench, and it tightens as you in the direction that you turn the wrench. So you can flip it either side, use it to tighten the wrench onto the bike, or you can use it to slacken the wrench off the bike. This one here is also quite useful. Only problem is that little jaw there bites into the filter, so it can punch a hole into your filter. So you got to be very careful and make sure that you're willing to destroy the filter before you use that one. These two here, junk. They slip. I won't recommend them at all. The BMW toolkit that comes with the bike that fits underneath the saddle is the barest minimum toolkit that you're going to see. But anyway, it does have an interesting tool. When you take the screwdriver out, it has this for a wrench in the handle. So what you need to do is to put this in here, right there. I don't know if you can see it very well. Right there. And undo the filler cap. Now I've already slackened this off a bit, so it's slack right now, so that I can just turn it with my hand, but it is usually quite snug on there. Not over tight, but snug. So you take this off before you even start changing the oil, and that'll help for it to drain faster. Now, as you can see, the old filter has the date and the mileage written onto it and pen, and I like to do that every time I change my oil, because then I know when it was last put on and at what mileage. So I'll be doing that again this time. But as you can see, there's not a heck of a lot of clearance right there, especially if you've got crash bars fitted as this bike has. So what you need to do is to not use one of those wrenches that have a handle, but use a ratcheting type wrench, the wrench that has, that can fit in like this one can. You put that on top of the on top of the filter, and then you use your ratchet to take it off. But you do that after you've loosened the drain plug and let most of the oil, if not all the oil, drain out from the bottom. Okay. Before taking off the filter, we then have to go and cover this area here up with the tin foil. Okay, because all the oil is going to drip down on top of that. So that is the oil drain plug. So there's your hex socket there, and you need to use the hex tool to go in there and undo that, which I'll do now. Now is a good time to go and inspect the inside of the drain plug. That there is a magnet in the middle, so if you see any little filings of metal stuck to that, I think you'll be having some problems. I guess if you have a small amount of little tiny filings in there, it's probably not a good indication that the filter is doing its job. But the magnet is there for a reason, so maybe just a small trace amount of filings is acceptable. Who knows? Anyway, I didn't find any filings in mine. Cleaned it up. It's all ready to be reinstalled back into the bike. Okay, now we're going to twist that off. I slackened it off with the ratchet, and now I'm going to twist it off with my hand. Hopefully everything works well. Take that off. And there's the filter. And I've got my foil there. Okay, so let's twist that off now. See where the foil goes? The oil goes straight onto the exhaust. So you want that to come off like that. I don't particularly want it to go onto my crash bar. So what I'll do is just tip the filter up. Hopefully that stops most of the oil dripping down. And then put the filter into the thing like that. And that there is what's remaining. So we got to clean that up. Take the oil off of that and clean up the area and put spin the other filter back on. Okay. Now, I like to pour a little bit of oil into the filter. Whoops. A little too much. And then smear some oil on the gasket. Like that. I think they said it typically is you put half the filter full so that when you turn it on the side it doesn't drip out. I won't get too anal about that. So just clean this up a little bit, wipe around here, and essentially, and before you do anything else, cork this bottle back. Because believe me, you don't want to kick it down as you kind of lean over or bend down underneath the bike, or lay down, or however you get onto the bike to go install that filter. You don't want to kick that over, okay? So I'm going to just go install this filter back into where it belongs. Don't want to cross thread this, so be careful. Okay, it's spinning on good, and I don't want to touch the back end of it or the top here, because don't forget I'm going to write on it. So at this point you tighten as tight as you can tighten it, and I think typically they say to tighten another, I don't know, quarter turn, half turn, something like that. There's a torque spec. To be honest, I don't actually pay too much mind to that. I just tighten it as much as I can tighten it by hand. Let's try and do that. I'll do that off camera. So this is the pen that I use to write on it. Painters, I don't know, some kind of painters, opaque paint markers. Can't remember where I got it, but you just want some kind of a paint pen with a tip like this to write on it. So let's write 11 Feb kind of hard to get in here. 18, and the mileage, if I remember correctly, was 25,535 or something like that, close enough. 2, 5, 5. Running out of ink or something. Wipe that off. 5. 3. I'm not going to get any awards for penmanship here. 5. There we go. Good enough. Oil change done today. 25,535. At this point, we want to remove our foil. We're done with our tin foil. So I just take it off like that, scrunch it up, and find a good place to dispose of it. And there you go. Look at that exhaust. Isn't it pretty? It's clean, 100% clean. Even my crash bar cross member here is fairly clean. So I don't have to do anything with that. And the oil filter has been draining off for a while, and so now I can dispose of this or get it ready for disposal in the old box. Now the drain plug is the last thing to tighten, and that has to be tightened to 42 Newton meters, I believe. So I've got the torque wrench set to 42 Newton meters. New gasket is on, so we can adjust, gradually tighten this, and that's it. It's done. No over tightening, just torque it to the right spec and you're good. Now we get to the cleanest part of this dirty job, adding the fresh oil. So what I do is I usually start with adding 3 full bottles, 3 full liters, or quarts I should say, here in the States. 3 full quarts, because I know it's going to take somewhere between 3 and 4. The bike says, or the manual says 4 liters, or 4 quarts, and in my estimation the sight glass always shows full somewhere around 3.5, and then I let it run for a while, and then I check it afterwards, and we're going to talk about checking the oil level, but I check it afterwards and then I can add a little bit more. So for me, with an oil and filter change, it'll go up to about 3 3/4 or so. That's my guess anyway. This is not rocket science. 3rd quart. And of course, don't let the funnel overflow. There we go. 3rd liter is in there. Or 3rd quart. What the heck is it? Is the measure. On the bottle it says 1 US quart, 0.946 liter. So, close as damn it, eh? What I do is use this time as it's draining down to cork off, close off the bottles, put them aside. I'm going to pour my old oil back into there, because what happens is I take it to the recycling place and I dump it, so I just put the oil back into the oil bottle. Now this here is the partially used bottle that I started to pour into the filter. Remember that on the other side. So this is here for topping up. So we're going to have a look now to see how the sight glass looks. There's the sight glass level. I don't know if you can see that properly, if there's too much reflection, but it's probably a quarter way down the circle. So I'm going to top it up some more. Okay, so that's it. I filled it up to that level, and that's where I'm going to stay right for now. And if you look at the bottle, I don't know if you can see, but the bottle has got probably a quarter of a liter left in the bottle. So that's usually where I end up every time I change oil. I get that much, but the engine is totally cold. So what I would do is start the engine, check for leaks, right, and then afterwards let the engine sit for maybe 2-3 minutes and then check the oil level. That strategy has been working good for me ever since I had the bike. You check the engine when it's warm, just after having shut it off, you let it sit for 2-3 minutes, and then you check the oil level when it's on the stand like this, or you can check it level, I guess, if you can get somebody to sit on the bike and keep it vertical, but I like to put it on the stand and read it there, and it's always served me well. So I tend to keep it right to the top of the circle, or close enough to the top of the circle. But so when I do my initial fill, I fill it up to there, and I have a little bit left over, and then I top up later on as needed. I started the bike and let it run for a minute or two, and then checked it a couple of minutes afterwards, and that's where it dropped to. So I think I'll leave it for there for now, and just maybe top it up a little bit in a couple of days' time. So that's the end of the oil and filter change on my RS. And next thing to change would be the air filter and then the final drive oil. Before I can change the final drive oil, I've got to ride the bike for a little while, so I'm probably not going to be doing that today. It's only a quick job, so the main thing I wanted to change today was the oil, the engine oil, and to reset the service light. So we'll see how we get with the taking off the plastic body panels now. Not something that I look forward to, but it's got to be done. So that's it for changing the oil.